Welcome to NBA Live, MMA Live Before Lock. You know, sometimes I do a lot of shows over here, Pete, so sometimes I can get a little confused on what show I'm doing, but we are here for NBA, or MMA Live Before Lock. I got NBA up on the TV. I'm a little confused there, but how you doing, brother?
What is going on? You're everywhere now, so I definitely can understand what's going on, everybody. Thanks for joining us. We're talking about some changes, man, to this card. It's crazy.
Yeah, there is definitely some changes onto this card. Of course, I went out and did some grocery shopping, and I come home, Pete, and to see that it is the fact of we have a change in the fight, man. Magomedov Ankalaev and Ian Cutelaba off the card, and it is because of COVID once again with Ian Cutelaba. And I tweeted about Ankalaev. If I'm him, and what's the point of having this fight anymore?
Yeah, agree. I mean, sometimes the MMA gods just don't want certain things to happen. It's just a weird fight, and unfortunately, one of the fights that I was looking forward to is now canceled. So we're going to talk about, how the public is basically going to pivot in this scenario, whether you are rostering Ankalaev at 9,000 and you have to pivot now, or Cutelaba at 7,200. What are your likely choices?
Yeah, I mean, that's obviously something we all have to consider. Hopefully, my mic's not too loud anymore. I was doing NASCAR a little earlier, so we had to make changes. So I will tell you this: I'm a Mac guy, but the people at Awesemo sent me over a Windows machine. So this is probably the first time I have used a Windows machine in probably 15 years. So sometimes it's on the fly. So if my mic does get a little too loud, just let me know in the chat. That's a great way. Just tell me. And it's definitely something I can fix here pretty smoothly here. So, but of course, as we look at the swapping out of fighters, as I was putting together my lineups, Pete, Ricardo Llamas was somebody that I did do a little bit. This is also one of those cards, and I kind of feel like I'm rehashing something I said on the NASCAR show earlier today, where you don't feel like you have to use up all your roster, your salary space, because I found myself with $1,100 and upwards of $2,000 to $2,500 of salary left over on some of the lineups I was doing.
Yeah, so I think the most popular pivot will be from Ankalaev at 9,000 now to Ricardo Llamas at 9,200. Some things have changed. We'll get to it based on, what I saw at the weigh-ins and kind of what I'm thinking now. But, Llamas at 9,200, the public's really going to like him because he's facing a guy who's making his UFC debut on short notice. But there's more to that story.
Yeah, there's definitely, we're talking about, and I'm by no stretch of the imagination am I a COVID expert. So I'm not gonna sit here and claim to be a COVID expert. But the fight's off, so you gotta change up your lines because I did have a lot of Ankalaev, as I did like him in that spot here. Joe, appreciate you in the super chat. Said Jason Pete, I'm alive. I didn't have to cut my hair, thank God. But I did go 3.5 minutes rounds of tire sparring. So my famous question, who are your guys' locks of the night? I would say as I look up and down this fight card, I don't know if I would say I have locks.
You know what, Joe Todaro? I don't know. I feel like you have to shave your head, and it's because of the Agapova losing. That's crazy. We touched on that on Thursday. But thanks for your question. I'm not using the word lock, but there are plenty of fighters that I definitely love, and I'm favoring Rakic here at 8,700. A lot to do with how Anthony Smith was in his past fight, and I did watch it again after our show, and man, there's just so many red flags in that situation, and I still don't know if he's recovered from all the damage that he took. Now, if he goes in there with a grappling mindset and strategy, like you brought up, Jason, you can avoid big shots and still win a fight. So, I would say Rakic is somebody I have plenty of. Like, I had plenty of Ankalaev. I have plenty of Rakic, and also Sean Brady at 9,300.
Yeah, I would probably say if I was going to label who is my most confident pick of the night, and by no stretch do I think this is a lock, it would be Sean Brady. My concern with Sean Brady would be is if all of a sudden it becomes a matchup where he is not able to use a grappling and becomes a striking-based fight.
Yeah, that is my worry as well. But I think that he can do it. As far as like under 8,000 options, I think Aguilera at 6,900 is going to be something that people turn to because he can get the KO finish and do it early. But I mean, if you dive into Aguilera's career, Jason, he really does struggle against offensive wrestlers. And Sean Brady isn't just a wrestler. He, has faced 12 opponents and he's undefeated. So clearly he's doing something right. He mixes striking well with takedowns. Nobody's been able to figure him out. I like Brady here at 9,300 quite a bit.
Yeah, I mean, look, I understand why you would like him in this spot. I get it. It's just one of those fights that I mean, I can see how Sean Brady wins. Excuse me, I can see how Christian Aguilera wins. And look, it's by throwing some bombs. He's got to throw bombs. And to me, but if I was going to look at anyone I feel the most confident, Sean Brady would definitely be my pick. Of course, be sure to fire up those questions on YouTube or in the premium Slack channel as well. But let's go right over to YouTube right now. Joey, right up from the start, DraftKings Core.
I kind of mentioned it for me. I have exposure everywhere. This card, there are a few fighters that I deselected, and if you've been following me, don't necessarily listen to my deselections because they have not been the best. But my core that I'm looking at a lot this week, I'm getting to the main event, even though it's 3 rounds. I like Rakic quite a bit. I like Brady quite a bit. The chalk of Alex Caceres is always a little worrisome because I feel like his style and his skill level can actually not always get you the W. I mean, he is 16-12, so the guy has lost quite a bit. And I think that assuming he's going to go in there and dominate and put on another performance that he did against Chase Hooper, we could be disappointed here, Jason. So I have plenty of Alex Caceres at 7,400. I think it's a great value, but I'm not like over the moon overweight on it. You know what I mean? Because I'm like, I don't want to get burned by it. It's a very sticky situation.
Yeah, and the $13 for Alex Caceres on FanDuel. I mean, it's one of those things that you have to seriously look at when you're looking at making some of those plays there. Jason Miller goes 2 questions. Question 1: single entry FanDuel Impa or Patillo or Maki Patillo or Llamas Cummings. Question 2: favorite champion plays on SuperDraft. I'll let you get into question 1 and let me pull up the champions on SuperDraft.
So Maki or Impa Kasangadai.
Yeah. So it's either you take the winner, you take that someone in that fight, or Llamas or Cummings.
I feel like the obvious pick would be Llamas, but after doing a lot of diving, I'm actually getting some ownership on Bill Algio, and I know on Thursday I was not interested in it, Jason. But I know that Bill Algio took the fight on short notice, but he fought earlier this month, and he mentioned that he didn't have a bad weight cut because he was able to basically stay in great shape. And you have to think like we need somebody in the low 7K range that nobody's talking about, that nobody's getting exposure to. And I'm fine with taking chances on Bill Algio. I think I have him in like 25% of my lineups or something crazy like that, only because I narrowed my 7K options down to about 4 or 5 fighters that I actually want exposure to. He's one of them. As far as the Maki Pitolo, Impa Kasanganai, not my favorite fight to target, Jason. Pitolo is, very volatile. You don't know what you're going to get from him. Good striker. Iffy ground game. Impa Kasanganai is relatively untested as far as UFC level. So how does he respond to a guy like Maki Pitolo? I think Impa should do enough to win. But I mean, Maki needs to win this fight and definitely can threaten Kasanganai in this bout.
Yeah, as I look at the on SuperDraft the champion spot, I'm gonna give you one that is gonna give you some good value. Viana 2.1 times.
Yeah, I love Poyana Viana, and I'm not one to back too many of the female fights. I think that they could surprise this week based on them going to the decision and being striking matches. But, I think Poyana Viana would be my favorite of them.
Yeah, no, I'm with you there. Mike, appreciate you in the super chat says, "Hey guys, do you trust Impa's legs? They got pretty beaten up against Anthony Adams on the Contender Series, and with Maki not taking any damage against Stewart."
It's a great point, man. Great point. I mean, how recovered is he? I think he should be okay. Maki Pitolo definitely is a threat standing up to anybody in the division, but he can lay an egg and pull out a Colin Powder type of performance. Like, if you want to, I know MMA math doesn't work this way, Jason, but we can sometimes compare opponents, right?
Mm-hmm.
Colin Powder or Impa Kasanganay, who wins that fight?
Impa.
I think so as well. And I think Impa's more skilled. And there's no way that Colin Potter should have beat Maki Pitolo, but he did. So I feel like Kasanganay should be able to do enough in this fight, even though it's very dangerous.
Yeah, it's the quick turnaround for both guys. It's a turnaround for a quick turnaround for both guys. That's kind of it's a fight that I don't when I was doing crunches on this card, Maki Pitolo was coming up a ton. There was he was coming up a ton. Obviously Ankalaev and Brady were in some of the lower fights, and Alex Caceres was the other one that was coming up a lot as well. Top 3 super draft plays to replace the Ankalaev and Kutalabe fight. Now, when we're talking about just in the flex position, the super flex position, Brady's only 1 times, so there's not a ton of value there. Rakic 1.05 times, not a great ton of value there. Maybe like a Neil Magny 1.1 times. Alessio Di Chirico 1.3 times. I know you were texting me earlier today saying you really did not like the way Zach Cummings looked on the scale.
Yeah, no. So there's a few changes as far as the weigh-ins for me. Like I mentioned Bill Algio against Ricardo Llamas. Bill Algio looks humongous compared to Ricardo Llamas. Has a lot of reach on him and looks like he came in great shape. As far as Cummings against Chirico, Cummings looked really bad, like on the scale. Like, he didn't have a bad cut. It's almost like I wonder how committed he was to training. He could just be getting older. He is 36, and that could just be his body type. So I think Chirico, I like him a little bit more than I did on Thursday. So I'll have a decent amount of Chirico. But as far as the underdog pick that I talked about on Twitter, that's Bill Algio of me having relatively zero interest to now elevating my interest to about 20% of my lineup. So I'm not saying he's going to go out there and stop Ricardo Llamas, but it's a big swing for me of how I wasn't interested and now I am.
By the way, if you do have any questions, hit those over YouTube, hit those over in the premium Slack account. Joshua says, actually, he mentioned about the Cummings weigh-in. He says, didn't Cummings look a little bit out of shape? Chirico looked good. Looks like ownership is low. What's about your opinion? So we just kind of discussed that. So I think people can see where you're coming at from that one. Next up, Brandon goes, can you rank the 3 women's fights? I just feel like I always get the women's fights wrong. Need a little help. This is the thing about women's MMA, and we talk about it all the time, is that a majority of the fights go over 2.5 rounds, go the distance. It's in that 60% range. The one fight we talked about, Whitmire and Viana, I think that's the one fight that I could see getting a finish. The other 2, I think have a good chance of going the distance, and the betting odds say that.
Yeah, so I would, for me, and I'm pretty, historically, it's tough for me when it comes to picking women's fights. It just is. Polyana Viana is probably my favorite of all the options. I'm just not that impressed with Emily Whitmire here at 8,200. I know it's my tough spot of the 8,200, 8,000, but I feel decently confident in Viana. I think that she can sub her, put her in bad spots, outstrike her, do whatever she needs to do. The Martin Cyphers fight and the Grasso Kim fight are pretty volatile matchups because Grasso's priced up at 9,100. She's jumping up a weight class and facing a volume type of striker who's a little underwhelming, but is tough and has a significant size advantage, 6-inch reach advantage. So you want to see how she responds to that size discrepancy. And then the Martin Cyphers fight, I feel like could be another trap as well. You have Martin, who's 0-1 in the UFC. Cyphers has been beaten by the list is too long now. And, I think people could be totally writing her off. But this is sometimes a spot where the experience will show through. And just because Cyphers was stopped by, say, Mackenzie Dern or, Angela Hill, and the list goes on, this should be, if she's going to win any fight, Jason, it's probably this one. But I just don't know if her skill level's really there.
Yeah, no, I'm with you there. Next up, Andrew goes top 3 FanDuel captains now.
Well, you got stuff on FanDuel tonight. What are you thinking with that?
Sean Brady is my clear number 1, captain spot.
Yep.
I'm trying to think of. I've got a ton of lineups on FanDuel. I had a lot of Ankalaev. He was somebody that I had a lot of.
Who'd you pivot to? From Ankalaev on FanDuel.
I did a lot of Viana. Not necessarily in the captain spot, more in a regular spot. To me, I was looking at now is Sean Brady, Ricardo, Llamas, even though I do have shares of Bill Algio as well. Alexander Rakic is tough to get to, but I do have some of him. He just, I think his, with it being a 3-round fight, I don't love the price point on FanDuel. I think he's more of a DraftKings play than he is a FanDuel play.
Yeah.
It's just merely because of roster construction.
What do you think of this pivoting from a $19 Ankalaev to an 18 Magny? Is that something that you consider on FanDuel?
Yeah, I would. I mean, I think my general thought on Neil Magny is that he is going to stick and move, so he'll rack up some significant strike points.
Yeah, I would have to agree with that.
Yeah. But I mean, look, I do have Robbie Lawler as well.
It's an interesting card. I mean, I appreciate everybody being in here with us every single week. It's exciting. I mean, fights are canceled. Who's injured? Who's backing out? It's crazy.
Joshua over in Slack says, do you take the betting line movement to Whitmire in at all? I always pay attention to betting line movement. I'm more, the line that I typically look at the most is what happens when the line initially opens within those first 24 hours. To basically tell you, does the betting public see the fight differently than the odds makers do? Did the odds maker put out potentially a bad line? That to me is more of what I look at when I'm looking at line movements.
What's the line movement on the Whitmire Viana fight? What are they referring to? Is it money coming in on Viana?
I believe it's on Whitmire.
Really?
So it was Viana. So if you go back to Wednesday, Emily Whitmire was minus 150. Now she's at minus 130. So there has been some money coming in on her. Let me look at the last 24.
I think it has to deal with the fact that they both have so many holes in their game, right? Like it's in women's MMA, it's so much of a toss-up, Jason. And I mean, we saw in a Agapova Dobson fight, it's close. Like the competition is really close. There's nobody that's really, leaps and bounds above the competition other than, let's think of Amanda Nunes, Cyborg, you know what I mean? Like there's very few.
Yeah, when you look at over the last 24 hours, the 3 biggest line moves have been Paul Viana, Alessio Di Chirico, and Bill Algio. Bill Algio is now plus 240. He had gotten as high as plus 275. So, but look, I think in terms of DFS, I think it's a great tool to look at to give you an idea of what does the betting public think with that. Joe says, can you go wrong with Austin Springer at 7.2K? This is my concern with Austin Springer is, yes, he took the fight on short notice, but clearly he told the UFC he could make 145. Doesn't make 145, doesn't come close. Pete, I mean, look, we both know how much you had to cut to get to 145. Even though you hated those last 5 pounds, you still got him off.
Yeah, I've never missed weight, so I wouldn't accept a fight that I knew I couldn't make. Now there are plenty of fighters out there that are notorious for missing weight. Ray Borg's one of them, and I don't think any lineups with Springer. Maybe he's somebody I should look at, but Caceres looked so damn good in his last fight. He has 21 UFC fights compared to Springer's 0. Springer looked okay on the Contender Series, but he did fight Giga Chikadze, who is just a kickboxer coming over from Glory. And, if Giga had any real submission threat, I feel like Springer would have been submitted. He kept leaving him, one arm in for a triangle all the time. He's leaving his arm out there for an arm bar. Got caught almost in an omoplata. Not many people get caught in that position in omoplata. So from Giga Chikadze, nevertheless. So I think that Caceres could surprise people with his guard. I remember when he first came into the UFC, he had a surprising guard. He's sneaky off of his back. But he is the type of guy that can lay an egg at 7,400. I mean, he's priced. They're both 7K guys fighting each other. Let's put it that way.
And by the way, you should note Austin Springer, we got him at 23% ownership. And of course, if you want to get access to our ownership projections, you got to sign up for MMA Weekly Pass for $8.95. Go to awesemo.com/join and sign up for that pass today to take advantage of all those tools that has helped make Alex Awesemo Baker the number one DFS player in the world, as you can get the top fighters tool ownership projections. You definitely got to check out that as stuff that me and Pete use every week, whether we're playing MMA or other sports, and Fantasy Cruncher. You got to add that to your account as well. It's a huge tool, and when I'm building my lineups, Pete, one of the things I use Fantasy Cruncher, I unclick some fighters because there are fighters that I know I do not want in my lineup.
Hey, yeah, I mean, that's what I do, and I've been getting burned by it. But the chat I love the chat, and if you're in the chat, I appreciate you. I love interacting with you guys. You guys are awesome. The chat brings up a good point of saying, Springer's wrestling against a guy who's notorious for having iffy takedown defense. So, I mean, if Springer comes in shape and plans to, work strikes into takedowns, he could surprise and could get the W here. I mean, it's a very winnable fight. As far as UFC level talent, Caceres does have 21 fights in the UFC, but he is the lowest level of UFC talent that there is.
Tristan says, who do you have zero of? Hannah Cyphers for me.
Man, you hating on my girl. I root for Hannah Cyphers, but I understand for DFS she's not the best.
I will tell you, I don't have much Mallory Martin. I do not much have Alex Grasso, not much Kim. But I would tell you, I'm pretty sure I have zero Hannah Cyphers.
I have zero Ankalaev and Kutalaba.
Wow.
Obviously.
Okay, take the easy way out, Pete. Just take that easy way out. Jeez.
I have zero Emily Whitmire. I'm making a stand. Now, that's a very volatile fight. I mentioned it. It could go either way. If Emily Whitmire wins, I don't know. I don't know if she gets a stoppage. She has a 25% finish rate, only has a 4-3 overall record. Poignant, to be honest, should win this fight. I really think that she should.
Cameron goes, who was the underdog Pete was hyping on Twitter?
Yeah, so that's me getting zero exposure to now 20% exposure. It's Bill Algio. He's good. He really is. He's good. And the thing that I'm liking about Bill Algio, maybe I'm talking myself into it, Jason, is his level of competition. Let me pull it up because he's actually surprised. He fought a lot of UFC talented guys,
and he's fought a lot of title fights in Ring of Combat as well. I mean,
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, he's a guy that's, he had that fight in the Contender Series last year. He's kind of always been that guy that on the regional scene has been on the cusp. Like it seemed like he was that one win away, that one notable win away, that one dominating win away, and it just never happened. But I mean, look, in today's mixed martial arts world, especially these Vegas cards, opportunities are so much there for fighters. So yeah. By the way, speaking totally off, not even UFC related, a guy that we both know, Tim Karen, fighting for LFA in like a week or two.
Interesting.
Yeah, he's got Kyle Stewart, the former UFC fighter.
Wow, that's a big fight for him. Yeah. I mean, us New England fighters right now, we're trapped, man. And nobody's putting on shows. I'm gonna have to go to Egypt or something, go get a fight. Who knows? I pulled up Algio's record, and the one fight that I remember was the Shane Burgos fight. Jeff Lentz was on the Ultimate Fighter. Jared Gordon, Scott Heckman. Tim Dooling. The guys fought UFC level talent, 100%. So Ricardo Llamas was a part of an elite territory at one time, but Bill Algio's tough. He brings pressure, which is kind of what I want in a 7K punt. He pressures opponents. He throws volume. He does have good submission skills as well, even though Ricardo Llamas probably is not getting submitted. But I like that. Like, if you hurt somebody on the feet and they get desperate and you have, submissions to resort to, sometimes you can catch somebody.
By the way, we got over 400 people in here. Be sure to smash that like button right here on YouTube. That does help us out a lot. As always, we do appreciate that. Those likes. So let's get those likes over 100 here in the next couple of minutes. Next up, Andrew says, would we need Patolo right in a GPP? I would think if he wins, I think he's in the optimal lineup, because I think the reality is a Maki Patolo win means Maki Patolo lands some coconut bombs and won by knockout.
You'd think so, right? I mean, Impa Kasanganay is only 7-0, and I know that he does have, some legitimate skills. 29% finish rate in his 7 fights. The problem with that, right, if you're not finishing fights, that also means that your opponents have 15 minutes to possibly land something on you. I don't know if Patolo is one of my favorites, but I definitely have him in plenty. I like Patolo more than Anthony Smith. I'll tell you that.
Someone had asked me if I was playing Rakic on FanDuel. I do have a couple of lineups. I think I've got like 200 lineups on FanDuel, so I've got a lot of FanDuel. I've got shares everywhere, Pete. I got shares everywhere. Playing more on FanDuel today than I am DraftKings, but I do have a couple of DraftKings lineups.
It's awesome.
Kim or Grosso for a 20 entry max DraftKings.
So this is a fight that I think could be sneaky. Hold on. Hold your horses, people. Hold up. I got you. I got something I think that could help people out in this fight, because it actually shocked me when I was looking at it. This fight is probably going to be on the feet. Okay. I'm not telling anybody when I say that.
That's not breaking news. No.
Yeah, exactly. What I would like to bring out is that Kim throws at a 33%, 33% striking accuracy. Grosso has 41% striking accuracy, right? So let me throw these numbers out at you, Jason.
Okay.
Hold on. Okay. So in a decision loss, Ji-Yeon Kim against Antonina Shevchenko threw 128 strikes, landed 33. Oof. That is some bad ratios right there.
Well,
okay.
I want to bring a point too.
Yep.
Grosso at 125 now, not 115.
Correct. Now listen to these numbers, okay? She fought Melinda Fabian and Justine Kish. Won a split decision over both of them, okay? This is Ji-Yeon Kim we're talking about, through 241 significant strikes, and then through 215, landed only 68 and 73 respectively. So the girl throws. But, I mean, she could throw with her eyes closed. I don't know. She doesn't land that much, but maybe against a fighter that is a little bit undersized for the weight class, maybe she's able to catch her at a distance where Grosso's not able to. If you look at Grosso's numbers of attempted strikes, oh, my God. These girls could actually break the slate. I'm not even kidding. Karolina Kovalevich, right? 3-round decision. She threw 369 strikes. That is absurd. She landed 148. So my point of bringing up those stats is that this is a fight that I think a lot of the public may avoid, and I actually have a decent amount of both of them because it stays standing for 3 rounds. You could have a nice score.
Next up, Nathan asks, Magny or Martin for GPP? I would tell you I might lean Martin more than Magny. The reason being, I think you got a better chance of a finish in Martin's ciphers than you do Magny Lawler.
So Magny's definitely in a more dangerous fight, right? I mean,
correct. Yeah,
he could get knocked out cold from the former champion Robbie Lawler. Martin should go in there and have an easy matchup against Hannah Cyphers. So Martin is definitely set up for success in this matchup, whereas Magny has to establish dominance and just kill him from the outside. But I don't know. I think I might lean Magny.
Let me look over here in the premium Slack channel. Someone says lock in Whitmire thanks to Pete.
Yeah, probably. I tell you, you guys know if I'm saying something on 8,000, 8,200, usually I'm off.
Yeah. Is it a good idea to stack the Rakic fight?
No,
I say no.
no, you don't.
3-round fight, and look, and I think the path to victory, Anthony Smith. I mean, yes, he could certainly knock Rakic out. I don't want to discredit that, but I think the path would be maybe him using the ability to get the fight to the ground and use his jiu-jitsu. We'll see if that does happen.
You know what I'm going to do, Jason? Talk about stacking, and I'm going to do it right now. I'm going to, just for the heck of it, throw a lineup out there with Grasso and Kim stacking that fight, where they could potentially. Kim's only 7,100. I mean, what does she really have to do to pay off that salary? And if it's a striking match like I'm thinking, we could be looking at juicy totals. And I hate stacking fights, guys. You know that.
Yeah, I do. Joe, appreciate your donation. He says, so now 10 fights remain on the card. How many could you see? How many finishes could you see? I'm seeing a lot of decisions potentially. I guess 4 finishes tonight. I will tell you, Pete, what did I tell you the other day? I looked at this fight card and said, man, this feels like a lot of decisions.
Yeah, it does. It does. And
if I set, okay, let's say I set the number at 3.5 finishes.
I'm gonna.
You got to do the half. You got to do the half. We can't have a push.
I'm gonna say over.
What if I said 4.5?
No, I think it's 4.
Yeah.
What do we got in the lobby? We got 469. You guys are awesome. Thanks for joining us. If you can get that like button up there, we appreciate you.
If Pete or Jason take any of the first 2 fights, consider all the shuffle. I have the worst luck of first fight, and and Brady Aguilar is the first fight of the night, so not feeling good about that. I guess I should check to see how they have shuffled the bout lineup.
Oh yeah, and did they push back the time, Jason?
If it gets pushed back, it would be pushed back about 30. So the way they structure these cards is, no, you still have a 6 p.m. Prelim Eastern Time start, so that'll be your lock. Your opening fight of the night is now Mallory Martin, Hannah Cyphers.
I thought that's what it should have been, honestly. I thought the Sean Brady first fight of the night, these guys are skilled, man.
Yeah, so it's only a 4-fight main card now. 9 p.m. Eastern Time, ESPN Plus. Prelims will be on big ESPN, but you can just, I just sit there. I just pull up ESPN Plus. I watch the whole thing right from there.
Same, just easy.
So your 4 fights on the main card are Smith, Rakic, Lawler, Magny, Kim Grasso, Llamas, Algio. Your feature prelim is Patolo and Impa. So the first 2 fights are the 2 female fights on the prelims of Martin and Cyphers and Viana and Whitmire. Those will be your first 2 fights to kick off the card.
I think they actually shuffled it correctly.
Yeah, and the fact of I don't have hardly any shares of the first fight, so I'm feeling good, Pete. I'm feeling good.
I have a decent amount, man.
By the way, be sure to use the promo code Roger to get 30% off the Awesemo Plus NFL Annual Pass with a free season-long and best ball fantasy football draft kits now included. That is valid through August the 31st. So I know I just got the email on my fantasy football draft September 7th. We always do it like the 6 days before the first game or like the week before the game. We wait till the last minute.
Same. You don't want to be stuck with rostering a guy who tore his ACL in the final preseason game, but you don't have to worry about that this year. Who knows?
I know here in Tampa we just had our inter squad scrimmage at the stadium yesterday. So and then I'll be going through my walkthrough at the stadium on Tuesday. So
what are we gonna do on Thursdays, Jason? Thursday night football, MMA cards. What are we gonna do?
That's a good question because I have some Thursday games.
That's what I'm saying.
I think we'll probably have to move the strategy show to either Wednesday or Friday.
Okay. Yeah, I'm cool with it. Make sure you guys stay tuned, all right?
Yeah, as football, you see, Pete, we really haven't figured this out. I guess I got to start looking at my schedule and figuring out when we can be doing shows. Yeah. So, especially during the football season, we might have to have some different times just based on my On my schedule, with the stuff I have going on. Gary says best fighter 16 under for contrarian MVP on FanDuel. Contrarian MVP.
Under 16?
Under 16. Let me pull up ownership on
I
FanDuel.
still don't have a few of the FanDuel salaries. I didn't get a chance to update the.
All right, let's see here. Contrarian. Neil Magny.
He's not under 16, right?
No, he's 18. I was just looking at ownership percentage. Viana 3% at 15.
I like it.
Under 16.
Patolo's 16, but Lawler at 14 is interesting.
Yeah, I don't know what to expect from Robert Lawler. That's I mean, look, and you, I thought you did an incredible job of breaking this one down on Thursday, where you just kind of talked about, like, the Robbie Lawler who was the UFC welterweight champion is not walking through the cage. At least we don't expect that guy to walk through the cage. He's just been a different guy his past couple of fights. Viana might be a good contrarian play at MVP. I think I have her an MVP spot. I'm sure I do because I have a crap ton of lines on FanDuel. Go ahead, man.
I don't mind it. Now I have a real problem trying to put my brain, like wrap my brain around FanDuel's like scoring system. And I know that you play over there a lot. I don't really. Lawler, right? Let's think of Lawler as that under 16K, $16 option. Magny's going to like to keep it at distance or try to take Lawler down. Okay. And if you defend takedowns on FanDuel, it really boosts your score.
Yeah. So just to pull up, so in the non-MVP spot, a takedown defense is worth 3 points. Takedown is worth 6. Significant strike 0.6. Submission attempt is a 5 points. And then if you win in the first round, it's 100 points, 75 in the second.
Algio could be interesting too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Patolo could be interesting because Impa's going to want to take it to the mat. So defended takedowns. He's a striker. FanDuel's favor strikers a little bit too. So very interesting.
By the way, P, as I look up my television, you remember that conversation we were having today about what's going to happen if we take Giannis and it's a blowout?
Yeah.
There is 9 minutes to go here in the third quarter, and they are up 21.
I have Giannis in my captain spot, so my boy that game needs to stay a little closer.
Is $4 too much left over in a single entry FanDuel lineup? I say no.
No, I mean, some sports you want to spend all your salary, and for MMA, and almost every week you find lineups that are taken down or optimal that have plenty left over. So if you have a lineup you like, just play it.
Patolo or Alessio? I feel like the ceiling is better on Patolo.
I don't know, though, because Cummings did not look the best, but he kind of just always looks like he's looked better. Let's say he's looked better, but this is a guy that is just tough everywhere. Cummings is hard to put away. Like he's been submitted in the past, but he has tough boxing. He has a good chin, good overall game. His output is a little troublesome. Like only throws about 2.5 strikes a minute. DeKiriko throws about 3. I think DeKiriko is the younger guy, and I definitely like him a little bit better now than I did on Thursday. So I have my DeKiriko shares. I do. I actually would say DeKiriko over Patolo because but which Patolo are you getting, Jason?
That's a damn good question. Damn good question. I don't know about that. This is a really good question. Who does a smaller cage benefit the most tonight? My initial thought when I initially saw this question, Robbie Lawler.
He needs to get inside the range.
And because of, if my thought process is correct, that it's going to be a stick and move mentality, there's not as much movement that Neil Magny can get away from. especially if he gets into a tight space where, Robbie Lawler, he's going to know how to cut Neil Magny off.
Right, that's true. It definitely he still has to get inside, but Neil Magny doesn't throw looping shots to help you get inside. So he throws everything down the middle, which is great for his strategy of keeping people away. So I think Lawler's still going to struggle, but I actually think if I'm looking at the whole card, the small cage is really going to help Sean Brady. It really is going to help him get his hands on Christian Aguilera, whatever his name is. I think he's going to be able to take him down. And if you think of Springer's going to want to take Caceres down, so maybe the small cage will help him as well.
Martin or Rakic on DraftKings?
Rakic, bro. Not even close. Rakic is my favorite play in the slate, and watch him go get smoked, but I love him.
Would you rather have Caceres or Algio?
Okay, so if we're talking DraftKings and we're talking ownership, it's not a bad idea to get away from Caceres, because what's Caceres going to have? 60% ownership?
Let's see here. Let's pull up ownership here. Let me refresh this. See if we've got a Caceres approaching 50%.
That's what I'm saying. So this is sometimes where we can pivot a little bit. Like maybe Caceres is still going to win. He's just not going to break the slate. I still think I like Caceres more than Algio, but I have plenty of Algio. Algio is risky. Algio is the Shauna Dobson risky call of the week.
By the way, we always talk about how we love our viewers and what they say in the chat. As Rick says, when I watch Patolo fight, in the back of my mind is Jason saying, "Throw them bungalows."
Yeah, for real. He needs to throw him. He needs to throw him this fight and listen to you.
Look, man, it's the old Rampage Jackson line, man. You got to throw them bungalows.
Yeah.
You got to. Someone asked the fights we were fading. We kind of talked about it earlier. Best fighter on DraftKings under 8,600.
I like the question. Under.
Ooh, that's a tough one, man.
Do I say Polyana Viana? Do I dare say that? Or do you say Alex Caceres because should win?
I would probably say Caceres.
Hey,
he should win, but
do you think Whitmire's good, though?
I think there's clearly a path to Austin Springer winning.
Do you think that Emily Whitmire's good?
It's all right.
Right? Like,
yeah.
I'm saying Viana, dude.
Would you consider stacking Caceres Springer on SuperDraft? They both have 1.5 times multiplier. I think you need one of them over there. That's not a fight I would consider stacking.
No. Well, I mean, on SuperDraft, that's interesting.
With Kutalaba and Ankalaev, without Kutalaba and Ankalaev, what is the next fight most likely to finish? Brady and Aguilera or Rakic and Smith? I see the main event going the distance, man.
I don't. I think Rakic smokes him.
Two. Let's see here. Rakic or Magny on DraftKings?
I like Rakic. I mean, they're both good plays, I think. I think that, Smith is just coming off of taking a lot of damage less than 3 months. He's returning to the cage. So I'll take Rakic in there. A lot of people are the chat is talking up Springer. That's interesting.
Someone asked, how's the neighbor's mowing going? Yeah. I will tell you, so I get up pretty early in the morning. And so I live in a circular street, and so we've got like this community area in the middle. So the city comes and mows that part. They like to start about 7:15.
Yeah. Goodness.
Yeah, man. As you know, I don't do it before 11 a.m. Says, love the show. Like always, talk me out of having 100% exposure to Sean Brady.
Okay, so not good to have 100% exposure to anybody unless like we Brady should win, but Aguilera is a very dangerous fighter. Like Aguilera can change the fight with one shot. Think of how Trevor Jones did against Valiev. That's all it takes. Yeah, I really, really like Brady. Let me see if I can pull up my exposure levels. What did I have? I think I had it all set. Yes. So I have Brady in 89% of my lineups. Like that is a lot.
No, I completely understand it. David's got a non-MMA question for us. Tacos or burritos? I'm a burrito guy.
Tacos, bro.
I'm a burrito guy, man. Does Kim have a path to victory against Grasso?
Yeah, it's a close decision. The girl's notorious for winning split decisions. If she's able to, it all depends on judgment, right? And that's what we're talking about as far as the judges' decisions. It's what are the judges weighing? Are they weighing effectiveness or activity? Now, Kim should be the more active fighter in this scenario. Even though if you look at just stats alone, Grasso throws a little bit more strikes per minute, but Kim just doesn't land as much. Kim, has thrown 200 significant strikes per fight, but she has a terrible accuracy. So if they're just going to award rounds to the more active fighter, if it's close and it's a toss-up of who did more, I could see Kim winning a decision. It would not shock me at all.
Next up, is having Martin, Viana, and Kim all in a lineup a bad idea?
Yeah, you are gutsy. You are gutsy, but I don't hate it. I do not hate it. I'm sure I have that same little grouping. What we got? 488, 491. You guys are so awesome, man. You guys, appreciate you so much. If you could smash that like button, get us to 150, I appreciate that. That'd be awesome.
Cummings and Whitmire or Patolo and Viana?
You lost me at Whitmire. Poliana, Viana, and the other one.
Patolo. Oh, man.
That's just me. I don't want people, I don't know. She just doesn't pass the eye test for me.
No, I get you. Alex or Springer? I'm all over Caceres. It's just, especially on FanDuel, it is really tough when you see that $13 on Alex Caceres. It's tough to pass on.
Yeah. The one thing that's interesting is how Springer, like you said, missed weight. How is his training camp? If he is going to grapple, the extra weight could help him. I just don't know if he's able to necessarily get a hold of the very elusive, Caceres who just doesn't stop moving.
Patolo or Kim on SuperDraft. So Patolo is 1.35 times, Kim 1.55 times.
I would go Kim in that situation.
2 spots left, 8K below for single entry. So obviously I'm on DK.
Below 8K, just 2.
Yeah, 2 spots left, 8K and below for a single entry.
Poliana Viana. God, I don't feel good saying that. I do not. But I do have plenty of her. Who else, Jason? Who else? All right, let's say without Poliana Viana. I say Algio and Caceres.
I think you got to put Patolo in there.
Oof.
Ceiling. You just if Monkey Patolo wins, the likelihood is by stoppage. The one concern that in this era of fighting that I have is when you have someone fighting as quickly as possible, is that the best decision?
sometimes it's rushed, right? Like,
And only the people in Impas camp knows that. I mean, that's kind of the question mark to me.
okay, but let's also realize that Patolo not too long ago was on the Contender Series. So this Patolo Kasanganay could have been a Contender Series fight. If we're talking a year ago, like it's not like Kasanganay is fighting somebody like a Zach Cummings who has 12 UFC fights.
Higher ceiling, Caceres or Kim?
Oof, God, I say Caceres.
Over on Slack. Best DK fighter under 7,800 that isn't Alex Caceres.
Under 7,800?
Yes.
I think you have to look at Robbie Lawler. And even though I have plenty of Neil Magny, it's just like, who has that death touch, that one hitter quitter, that, you know what I mean, that can change the fight? Let's go. Rakic and Smith, they both have it. Magny has the volume. Lawler has that death touch. And I think that's what we're talking about here. Mm-hmm. As far as if you're going down the whole card, death touch, Patolo's another one. Aguilera even has that death touch too. So, like, you have to be careful.
Zane's got a question for you. He says, if you had to fight Springer or Caceres, then which and why? I think I know your answer.
I'm taking the Caceres fight all day long so I can stand up and light him up.
That was what I thought you would say.
Yeah, exactly.
That is what I thought.
Don't try to take me down. Just stand up, all right?
Not trying to fight D1 wrestler.
Shut up, Jason.
Look, you just,
All right, let me do some diving. Let me think. Anything on ownership that sticks out to you?
Let me pull up. I was just doing a general fantasy crunch on FanDuel. So let me pull up DraftKings first. Mallory Martin being the 5th highest owned is surprising.
It's hating on Hannah Cyphers, man. And okay. Let's do Hannah Cyphers. Some deep diving right now. Okay? Because now, maybe it's gone a little too far. Let's see.
By the way, so I just did a generic crunch on FanDuel. Mallory Martin was a 3rd highest fighter that came in on the crunch.
Yeah, well,
57%.
Laid so many eggs. You know what I mean? Like, what do you think of Cyphers at the weigh-ins? Hugh brings up a good point because she did miss weight, which was actually surprising to me, Jason. And she had to have the towels up. Maybe it's I don't want to say it's strategic, but if a girl's trying to take her down, she could look for any advantage. You know what I mean? It's probably her last fight in the UFC if she loses. Okay.
But do you want to give up 20% of your purse because of that? And now you are not eligible for a fight night bonus. Like, I get that theory, but I sit there and say that as a fighter, how is that financially beneficial to you? Because, like, who was it? Who missed weight like 2 weeks ago, 2 or 3 weeks ago, and they had a fight of the night, and even the winning fighter had said, "Man, give him some bonus money." It was a Vegas card.
I don't remember.
But that's the thing is, if you miss weight, you are ineligible for a fight night bonus. So, like, I get it in a way, and I guess I can understand if you say they feel, look, we got to save our job. So if we lose 20% of our purse, we lose 20% of our purse. But I guess that's where I kind of look at that.
All right, let's look at Hannah Cyphers, okay? Listen to these fighters that she has fought, okay? Macy Barber was TKO'd in the second round. She beat Polyana Viana by split decision. She won a unanimous decision over Jody Escobar. Fought Angela Hill, TKO loss, round 2. Mackenzie Dern, submission round 1. And Maria Agapova, submission round 1. Now, those are some tough fights. Like, Jason, those are some really, really tough fights. And you do level up each time that you fight in the cage, especially if you're testing yourself. So Mallory Martin, it's not like she's some undefeated prospect. She is good. She is violent. She does have a good top game. And that's where Hannah Cifers has struggled in the past. But she is 6-3. She lost her debut in the UFC to Verna Jandiroba. We saw how nasty Jandiroba is. But potentially this is a spot that Hannah Cifers can shine. I don't feel good about it, but I have some Hannah Cifers lineups just in case.
By the way, it was Dariush who missed weight.
Oh, yes.
And remember, he had a great performance. So, yeah, that can hurt you. Over in Premium Slack, you don't think Springer is going to keep Cash on his back all day?
He could.
He could. Also, guy says, Jason and Pete, I do have a lot of interest in putting Kim in the FanDuel MVP spot. Thoughts? It'd be very contrarian. I'll tell you that right now.
Ooh.
Very contrarian.
I have decent amount of Kim. Kim is tempting. She's one of the options that I'm considering because of volume. The volume's there. She closes her eyes and just swings and misses a lot, but maybe she could, correct some things and adjust some things and get it done. I don't know if Alexa Grasso is going to have the same success moving up. We'll have to see.
Of course, this is the MMA Live Before Lock show right here on Awesemo.com. And if you want to get those ownership projections, you got to sign up for an MMA Weekly Pass, an Awesemo Plus Weekly Pass for $8.95. All you got to do is go to Awesemo.com/join to sign up to get to the player projections, ownership projections, that top fighters tool. You got to use that to your advantage, help creating your lineup. As we're just about 30 minutes before the fights will start. By the way, coming up after us will be MLB Live Before Lock because after I get done here, Pete, I got to figure out what I'm playing MLB wise tonight. I've got all my MMA lineups done. Next will be all my MLB lineups in there. And of course, if you're coming in here late, Ankalaev and Kutalaba is canceled. Kutalaba with a positive COVID test, so he is off the fight card. So if you're just getting here and you have either Ankalaev or Kutalaba in your lineups, you got to get those guys out of your lineups. Otherwise, you're going to have a big zero and probably end your night.
Yeah. I'm always shocked to see how many people roster fighters that are out, how many people don't late swap, how many people just don't know. So definitely get them out of your lineups, pivot to some other people, and try to avoid some chalk just to make some different lineups, because now with one fight less, you're going to have to get a little bit more contrarian to take it down.
Gonna parlay Caceres, Patolo, Brady, Llamas, and Rakic, I think. What do you think?
Caceres, Patolo.
That's 1, 2, 3, 4. Man, 5-fighter parlay. Ooh. I would not go more than 4 personally. I think you might be chasing a little bit of money there. So you've got 1, 2.
What does he have?
So you got 2 underdogs, one underdog in Patolo, and then favorites in Caceres, Brady, Llamas, and Rakic.
The Llamas one would scare me.
Yeah. For a cash lineup to fill last spot, Impa, Cummings, or Alessio?
So cash, right? You want to be safe and you want to pick a guy that has a high floor and you kind of know what you're going to get. I would oddly suggest Cummings, even though I did not like the way that he looked at the weigh-ins. He is 23-7 overall, 8-4 UFC record, has seen a lot of tough fighters, has handled them well, has good submissions, has powerful punches. Takirako is 3-4 in the UFC. So potentially Cummings is that guy you're talking about. But as far as like GPP, he really doesn't have the high ceiling.
Could you stack the main event in cash even though it's only 3 rounds? I say no.
I would say this is not the week to do it.
Yeah.
It's just I don't see. Plus, they're big guys, so 205-pound weight class. If somebody connects good, the fight's over.
Got asked if I was using randomness on Fantasy Cruncher. I do. One of the things I will say is if you're a premium member and you have Fantasy Cruncher, is you got to really dive deep into it and learn a lot about it and learn how to use it effectively to get the type of lineups that you want. I use it for all sports, especially like I wouldn't say this MMA slate is a slate I would describe this in, but there are certain times in MMA where I'm like, okay, this is someone I want in my lineup. Like let's say that it's a 20 max entry contest I'm going into. I might say, okay, I want this fighter in 80% of those lineups. So there's a way to use it, but I do randomness to try to, because look, I'm trying to get the most random and contrarian lineup I can. The reality is in a lot of these big contests where we're talking, FanDuel or DraftKings, likely is that someone's going to have the same exact lineup as you, so outside of the last pay-per-view, the big DK contest, only one person had the one lineup in the big the 200K winner contest. So yeah.
Last week, if you didn't know anything about MMA, you probably succeeded because you just picked names or whatever. I don't know, because a lot of illogical things happened last week, and that's just the way the cookie crumbles, man. I would say that this week isn't too bad. I wouldn't expect so many crazy upsets. There's always a few per card. There's usually like 2 per card. But I'm excited for the fights. There's a few fights that I'm really looking forward to, and the Brady fight is one of them.
Tristan says if we can rank Caceres, Kim, Algio, and Springer.
Algio, Springer. Okay, so if we're talking GPPs, I would say Algio, Caceres, Kim, and then Springer.
I would go Caceres, Algio, Kim, Springer. Magny or Llamas?
Magny.
Yeah, I would probably say Magny. Thoughts on Anthony Smith tonight? Look, the question, and I brought this point to you on Thursday, is if this was 3 months ago before his fight against Glover Teixeira?
Nope. I'm still on Rakic, bro. Now,
look, I know you're in a home that you're with somebody who's a big Anthony Smith fan.
I know it's going to be a rough night for me if Rakic goes out there and puts away one of her favorite fighters.
Okay, hold on. Let's just say this. Let's just throw this out there. Let's say all your lineups are done. You really do. You know what? You've got Rakic all these lineups. Even if he wins, may not be a huge difference. Do you start rooting for Anthony Smith because that's what's best for your home life?
No.
You are committed.
I stick to my guns, bro. I stick to my guns. It makes things interesting. What do we got? 25 minutes left, guys. We got crunch time right now. So if you have any last minute questions, please shoot them in the chat. We'll help you out as best as we can. Let's get that like button over 200 if possible. Appreciate you guys tuning in every Saturday for Live Before Log. This is my favorite piece that we do all week. I love interacting with you guys.
Yeah, we will be here for another 10 minutes and come up here at the top of the hour. Right. Will be MLB Live Before Lock. Do want to let you know about the special we have going on for fantasy football, as fantasy football is right around the corner. Sign up today for an Awesemo Plus NFL annual pass for 30% off when you use the promo code Roger at checkout. This will get you player projections, ownership projections, and the premium content we have here at Awesemo.com. It also gives you the season-long fantasy football best ball draft kit. You'll get for free with the NFL annual pass. It's a limited offer that's available through August the 31st. It'll get you 365 days worth of Awesemo Plus NFL and the draft kit, a $280 value for only $175. Sign up today at Awesemo.com. Look over in Slack here first. What about Viana or Cummings? Same price on FanDuel.
What is Cummings' ownership coming at, because no pun intended, Cummings at.
Oh,
What is
God.
it?
Oh, I might have to pull that clip.
I
16%.
mean, Cummings may not look so intimidating, and he's kind of one of those guys that is not the most intimidating or physically imposing guys, but he's just skilled. Cummings is interesting, bro. He really is. He does have a 74% finish rate. I don't hate it.
Is the main event fadeable? I don't think it's a fight you have to roster in all your lineups. I think that's the way I would phrase it.
Well, let me look at my exposure. Let me see how in trouble I'm going to be if I'm okay. So I only have 19% lineups without the main event. I'd say that's fair, right? Maybe a little aggressive.
Yeah, I would say that's fair. I don't think I asked you this question. Someone asked a little earlier of why you're not liking Emily Whitmire.
I don't know. I just think I see so many holes just in her game, like when it comes to submission defense, and you can say the same thing about Polyana Viana, but I do think that Polyana Viana will do more in the fight, will be a little bit more active. I'm not impressed with Whitmire. I just don't see a fighter that's putting all the skills together well. Like, she looks okay on pads. That's pads. Yeah, you can hit pads great, but that does not always translate. And that's one of the biggest things that people don't understand is you can look great in the training room.
Mm-hmm.
Under the lights, it's a different thing.
Different story when you got to make the walk.
Yep, it is.
Big difference, and
And that leads me to what somebody brought up in the chat earlier is how Hannah Cyphers deals with like anxiety. Like, she has a ton of anxiety. So perhaps maybe the anxiety gets the best of her in some of her performances. And she has a 2-4 UFC record. So a lot of people will be fading Hannah Cyphers probably because of that as well.
Over in Slack, someone says for looking for an underdog pick, Aguilera, Algio, or Kim. If I was going to rank him,
I'm not going Aguilera.
He would be. Look, he can knock him out. I think he can. I would rank him third in that list.
Sean Brady trains with Paul Felder all the time too. So like, Paul Felder is trying to take his head off.
I think Felder's been in Vegas for like the last month.
No, I know, but I'm saying like he grew up and they were a part of the same team forever.
Yeah, they were.
So, those Philly guys, I think Aguilera is very, very bold because he has not good takedown defense. I think the Kim is a toss-up of who wins the decision because of volume versus effectiveness. But Algio could be forgotten, and I like it.
I've got a question for both of you. I'm making a single entry, and I was wondering if I should put both DiCerico and Caceres in that lineup. I can tell you I have that lineup several times.
Me too.
Yeah. Kind of do a little rapid fire questions here before we get out of here in about 5 minutes or so. Is it a bad idea to fade the female fights for tonight?
It's usually not a bad idea. I have, I think, at least one in a lot of my lineups.
Highest scoring female fight, regardless of price.
Viana.
Fade Martin for Grasso and GPP for ownership.
I'm always about fading ownership.
What do you think about having $3,200 left in salary for DraftKings Big GPP? Look, I don't mind it. I think the fact is that, you don't have to spend all your salary to be optimal.
Yeah, you don't. And 3,200 left on the table is a lot, but that's kind of good. I like that approach for a long shot GPP.
My heart says Lawler. My wallet says Magny. Yeah.
Same.
Yeah. Who do you have more confidence in a win, Grasso or Martin? I would say Martin.
Grasso.
Really?
Yeah.
Man, you love using hand ciphers.
Nah, I don't. I just
Is she in your top 8?
no, she's not my MySpace top 8. No.
Patola and Impa GPP.
Cash, Impa, Patolo, GPP. Would you agree?
Yeah. I know the answer to this question, but I'll just mention it. Whitmire, Viana, we know who you're going with.
Not Whitmire.
Aguilera or Kim?
Kim. I'm not a fan of Aguilera this week. I'm a believer in Sean Brady. He's 12-0 for a reason.
I said this. I know I said on Monday on our podcast. I said on Thursday here in Awesemo. It's just odd matchmaking.
You're gonna ruin one of these guys. Like, why? Like,
I don't. The only thing I can think of from a UFC perspective, I think it's let's put Sean Brady in there against someone who can throw some bombs. But from Christian Aguilera's side, I just don't know. Wow, match guy within 10 points. All right. I just don't know if Christian can tame the grappling of Sean Brady.
I don't think he can either. And I think when you're facing a wrestler who's so aggressive with his grappling, it really makes you gun shy because you're so worried about giving up underhooks. Because if you overextend on straight punches or even a hook and you bring your hips forward, there's an easy double leg.
Oh, by the way, I mentioned last week on Live Before Lock that we didn't have that we were eventually going to have a week of no shows of Labor Day weekend. I was wrong. We're here next week.
Yes, we're here.
I think the stat I saw is there is a UFC card every week until December the 12th.
There's no better time to be a fan of MMA. So we appreciate you guys. If you guys are new fans to MMA, we hope you like the sport. It's tough as far as DFS wise, but we're here to help.
Yeah, I'll tell you this. I think MMA DFS is one of the hardest DFS sports. And because you mention this all the time, and last week's a perfect example of this, one sequence in a fight completely changes everything.
In my opinion, I would say MMA and golf. I think those are very two different.
I'm cashing right now in golf, baby.
I am too.
But by the way, you need to send me your NASCAR line for tomorrow, so I know not to take any of those drivers because I know they're going to crash. By the way,
what are we six weeks in a row where I've rostered somebody in NASCAR and they're out first 5 laps?
Me and Phil talked about it today. He thinks the first 2 segments are going to be pretty clean. Everyone's going to be. He said he thinks segment 3 tonight is when the wrecks are going to happen.
Oh boy. Well, I'll find them. Yeah,
you will find the driver that will wreck. Flat tire. Yeah, you're good at that, man.
I am very good at it.
You're talented at that. Yeah, NASCAR is tonight. Did the strategy show earlier on today with Phil. We do that every Saturday, typically 12 p.m. each time is when you can check out that. So, by the way, if you got any more questions, just fire out those away right now in the chat. We'll get them. We'll discuss them here as we're going to get out of here in about a minute or so. What's the fight you outside the main event? What fight interests you the most, just from a fight aspect?
As a fan, I'd say the Magny Lawler, but as me wanting to actually see an up and comer, I would say Brady.
For me, I think it's Impa. I think I'm really fascinated to see what he looks like, because I've been hearing about this kid for 3 years now. You know, when you talk to regional matchmakers, you get a good idea of who everyone's really high on, and he is a guy that everyone has been high on for a long time. So I'm interested in seeing what that. We'll leave on this. Malcolm asked our thoughts about his lineup in a DraftKings GPP: Rakic, Llamas, Patolo, Brady, Viana, Kim.
It's nice. I think that's going to be a very common lineup, though, where people pivoted to Llamas. I don't have too much exposure to Llamas. Some Algio, but and then as far as confidence in Poliana Viana, I do not have much confidence in the female matchups. I feel better other places.
And, of course, that is going to wrap it up for Live Before Lock. We're here every Saturday for a UFC event. Of course, we're here on Thursdays for the strategy show, so you definitely want to check that out. And we'll be back on Thursday for UFC Vegas #9 as we'll get ready for that fight card. But coming up here in 15 minutes, you got MLB Live Before Locks, so be sure to stick here at Awesemo.com to check out that show later on today.